On Thursday, EA held a giant event for Battlefield 6, and honestly, it looks pretty good if we're going to keep it a buck. Insider Gaming has been wall-to-wall coverage in regards to what looks to be the biggest FPS release of the year. Okay, and honestly, I've got high hopes for it. Now, I've been a Battlefield player. I'm not going to say fan or anything like that because it's not really a franchise that I follow that closely, but whenever I played a Battlefield game, I had a generally good time. I remember playing Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, actually got me to buy PSN, but that's another topic for another time. Back on the PS3, played a little bit of 4, I even played a little bit of Hardline, if anybody remembers that installment, but yeah, spent quite a bit of time with 1. I hear good things about 5, especially like years after launch. It ended up becoming quite a good game, but when it comes to those futuristic releases, it's been a minute, and there's a reason why there's been such a big gap when it comes to releases of Battlefield. But honestly, when you take a look at the landscape of, shooty pew pew games in today's day and age, I mean, all of them are just shitty pop culture mashups. Like, you got Fortnite, I think that's the most blatant example, and then you got Call of Duty trying to become a stupider version of Fallout instead of maintaining their own distinct identity. And then, God, we're going to see what horrors are next to be inflicted upon Halo in the near future. And then, of course, not to mention the other horrific hero shooters that have come and gone, like Overwatch, Concord, and the rest of those live service flops. But no, it's been a long time, and there's reason. Yeah, like I said, I'm tentatively excited for Battlefield 6 because it just simply looks like one of those good old-fashioned military shooters with a bunch of quality mechanics that made Battlefield a go-to for gamers in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Because remember when there was huge releases that would come out towards the end of the year? A new Call of Duty would come out and a new Battlefield would come out, and depending on where you're playing and who your friend group was, you would go in one direction or the other. If you wanted to have big destructible environments, you wanted to have 24, 50 people on a map, wanted to have tanks and aeroplanes and a whole bunch of fun shit like that, you'd go play Battlefield. Or if you wanted a more squad-based run-and-gun shooter, or hell, if you just wanted to pick up a couple of casual rounds like I would do back in the cut, I would pick up Call of Duty. I was much more of a Call of Duty player. I ended up falling off around Ghosts after I was intensely disappointed with that release, and then I've been horrified to take a look at what the franchise has become afterwards, but I digress, moving back to Battlefield. But of course, there is that big old EA-shaped elephant in the room when it comes to this, and well, we've heard what their plans are for Skate when that eventually comes out, how there's very little known or developed about the game, but don't worry guys, we're already cramming microtransactions all over the top of it. And in the era of greedy game developers, EA stands head and shoulders above the competition. There's still quite a bit of lingering stench on the type of shit they were pulling 10, 15 years ago. Christ almighty, it's actually been that long, especially with your online passes and cut content turned into day one DLC. Scammers and crooks, if ever there were ones. Like, it's so funny to just talk about the shady business practices of EA, especially in recent years when you have Ubisoft going hard at that crown and several other scumbag companies. But God, it's been a long time since I've been genuinely excited about an EA title. It might actually be Mass Effect Andromeda. Fucking hate that game, but I was really excited for it. Oh, the optimism of youth. The moment Battlefield fans worldwide have been waiting for is finally arrived. Battlefield 6's multiplayer reveal. Yeah, it's taking place as you read this. Yeah, it's already happened. Well, it happened on Thursday, so a couple days before. Being streamed live from Los Angeles, California, in an event that is set to rival Call of Duty's next event. Hundreds of creators were invited to play and stream Battlefield 6 as the game's multiplayer platform was revealed in full. One of the most important reveals to drop during the event was the release date. Yeah, which isn't that far away. And this is something that has been leaked for, God, like a week at this point in time. So we knew that it was coming out in October. But yeah, it was confirmed worldwide October 10th, which, fuck, man. Okay, because this is a game that has also been, teased for a while. Didn't know if it would be a numerical entry in Battlefield or if it was going to be another spin-off or something like that. But, oh boy, it actually looks like a military shooter. Ooh, it actually looks like it could be, returning to roots, being boots on ground. All of those cliches, but yeah, when it actually got confirmed and showed off, yeah. For as much as other companies are out there nostalgia baiting and all that shit, actually going back to, the franchise, the way that it was successful to begin with and giving the people what they want, Yeah, it's not really in nostalgia baiting in so much as, yeah, tastes really haven't changed all that much, or at least in the way that you're trying to push them hasn't really worked out all that well. So why not just do what works? Seems like a pretty easy formula to follow, right? But for months, yes, we've been seeing leaks propagated all over social media as Battlefield Labs playtest went and stayed live, leading to countless clips and images emerging online. I'm wondering if that wasn't kind of guerrilla marketing as well, just, leaving little breadcrumbs out there for people to get hyped about it and then just lead up to this big event. I'm kind of wondering if that wasn't the case as well. Well, Battlefield Labs has, been taken offline now. It's been, replaced with full-on gameplay breakdowns and reveals and all that shit. And honestly, it looks pretty good. I don't need to play any sound on this or anything, but yeah, you can see it's well, Jesus Christ, we might as well get some kind of fucking 4K resolution on this shit, because honestly, it looks pretty damn good if we're gonna keep it a buck. Obviously, this is just a pre-rendered, or it's just a cutscene, but yeah, some of that destruction rather, not a lot of construction happening right there, but yeah, old stims, and I could see that. Like that Frostbite, I don't think they still use the Frostbite engine, dating myself horrifically with that, but that looks like gameplay, just minus the UI, and it looks like old running animations from Battlefield, if ever there was one. But yeah, this looks like a serious, earnest shooter, something that, God damn it, man, it's going on quite a while, and especially, with a lot of the more gimmicky shit that Call of Duty was doing. It's something different, and it's so wild because these would have been a dime a dozen in the late stages of the 360 PS3 into the early PS4 Xbox One era, but I unironically, I'm kind of looking forward to this. And also, another thing that could also be a publicity stunt, could be a marketing tactic, but in a video over the weekend that I've got as well, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it is just a little stinger on the back end of another video. But if even Microsoft is realizing the error of their ways by jacking up prices, but maybe companies are realizing, and they're also taking a look, especially with what has been a hit in gaming so far this year, like the releases that have been the best selling, not the ones that have had the most players, what those games are, and how you can properly engage with the paying audience as opposed to try to push them off to your shitty slop subscription service. EA isn't raising prices on its games, including Battlefield 6. So yeah, no $80 Battlefield, which is good, which is very good given how feature rich this is going to be. I think there's a campaign, there's going to be a free-to-play battle royale mode, but I don't think it's going to be the cringy style. At least that's not what they've shown so far. With your different pop culture skins. If you want to do dumb shit like that, go play fucking Call of Duty or Fortnite. If you want to have flat chest, mastectomy, Lara Croft square off against Cody Rhodes, lispy ass, you can go ahead and do that if you're so inclined. Or if you want to have Darth Vader scream the N-word at you while you're playing as Goku running around constructing a base, you can go do that in Fortnite. It's a fucking wild thing to say, especially, if you were playing Battlefield 1 back in the cut and then all of a sudden you could have heard that sentence. You would have thought, Jesus Christ, what kind of, potato gameplays and potato designers are we going to be getting in the future? Oh boy, you don't even know a fraction of the horrors that are about to be inflicted upon us. But I digress, and focusing back on EA and Battlefield 6. So yeah, they're putting this game in the best position to succeed, because a $90, $80, $90 proposition, we know that's coming. And I think it would be wild. I would be very surprised if Grand Theft Auto 6 does come out with some version. Like, there's obviously going to be collectors or early access or some sort of, over-the-top edition that it's going to be, triple digit in price when it comes out. I think that that's going to be a given. But if the base game comes out and it is $70, I would be genuinely shocked. But without spoiling too much of another video coming out over the weekend, the one company that decided to reach for the stars ended up tripping and getting a mouthful of shit, because holy fuck is nobody buying their super expensive games. But to circle back around to a point that I made a little bit earlier, what are the games that are succeeding this year? Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, the remaster, that was $50. Clair Obscur Expedition 33, that was also $50. 3.3, probably closing in on 4 million sales so far. A handful of indie titles are also continuing to crush it. And even as janky and messed up as Wu Chang was when it debuted on PC, I've heard it's gotten better, but the players haven't returned to that one. But that still had a 6-digit debut, 136 million. Or I'm sorry, 136 million would be fucking amazing, but 136,000 concurrent players, that's still exceptionally good, and it was also at reduced price. It goes to show you, and it's something that we've been talking about for a while. There was a point in time when games would come out where you would have your greatest hits, your platinum hits, your player's choice catalog. Those would be games that had been out on the market for a year or two at that point in time. And if people had good word of mouth about that, you would go ahead and take a flyer on the game. Or when you could go to a store, you could go to a Target or a Walmart, a Best Buy or something like that, and you could pick up a game if it was on sale for $40 or $50 or even $30 around the holiday season. There was a point in time where people would take a flyer on the game that they weren't all of that invested in, but they were still, intrigued by what they seen right there. You don't get that in today's day and age. And when you're putting, $200, $300, $400 million into a title, and you think the only way to recoup your cost is to drive up the base purchase price, you end up with Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed Shadows, Star Wars Outlaws, Skull and Bones. Well, Skull and Bones is probably the perfect example, that quadruple A gaming experience that ended up dying a very short, very sweet, very silent death. But no, if EA isn't simply just waiting, which, okay, knowing EA for as long as, gamers have, you kind of know that they're just waiting for another opportunity to drive up the prices, so I don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt at all. But if they're just simply trying to do the right thing by just taking a look around and assessing the situation, going, yeah, $70. Okay, we know that it's content rich. We know that you could theoretically be playing this one for years, as was the case for Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we could sell DLC after the fact. That's totally fine. We can continue to monetize that shit, which you know exactly what's going to happen with that. There's going to be so many microtransactions. That's a problem in and of itself, but that's something that they've been doing for years at this point and been called out. Fuck. Everybody remembers Battlefront 2 and how bad that was. I remember how that game ended up getting a resurgence earlier this year. That was fucking wild to see. But anyways, gamers have voted with their wallet this year. Okay, they've sent a very strong message that no, they're not willing to shell out for more expensive games, especially when you're not really offering any sort of value. There are other battles to fight this year, and honestly, if Battlefield comes out and it's pretty good, and if it's coming out at $70, that's fantastic news. It's just when it does release October 10th, let's just hope that the age verification system that it's inevitably going to have ends up being a fight that we can all go ahead and unify on and get that the fuck out of the industry. Can we do that? That'd be great. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.